How's it going, everyone? It is Panjno here, and in this video I'm bringing you the ultimate Starfield FPS increase guide. In this video we're going to be focusing on everything you need to know about getting the best performance in Starfield, alongside covering the best in-game settings, alongside mods and other features you can look out for in the future, and everything in between. If possible, it is highly recommended to have Starfield installed on either an NVMe or an M.2 SSD if possible. If you're utilizing the Steam application, you can move the Starfield installation without having to re-download anything. I'm personally utilizing the Game Pass version of Starfield, but if you did have it on Steam, all you would need to do is go over to Starfield. I'll use Cyberpunk for this example. Right click on the game, head down to Properties. Head over to Installed Files, navigate towards the bottom to move this game's content to another drive, select Move Install Folder, select one of the other available drives on your system, select the drive, then select Move. It is highly recommended to update your GPU drivers for Starfield. Now for those of you utilizing an NVIDIA GPU from the RTX 3000 or 4000 series, you can actually force resizable bar inside of Starfield for a massive FPS increase. First of all, we need to ensure that resizable bar is actually enabled on your GPU so we can make use of this. Right click on the desktop, head to Show More Options, then open up the NVIDIA control panel. Navigate up towards the top to Help, then go down to System Information. Inside of the section, you'll then be able to see resizable bar if your GPU is supported. If resizable bar is listed as no within inside of the section for you, it is super quick and easy to set up on your system, and it only takes a few steps. There'll be a video linked in the description down below which will be titled How to Enable Resizable Bar on Your GPU. Now at this stage in the video, there was an in-depth guide on how to force enable resizable bar for NVIDIA RTX GPUs. Just before I went to render this video, NVIDIA have actually published the official update to enable this defaultly if your graphics card is running resizable bar. So as long as your NVIDIA GPU is supporting resizable bar in the previous step, all you need to do is just make sure that you're running on the latest game ready driver, which was just released today at the time of this video going live. So update your GPU drivers and resizable bar will then be running automatically on your NVIDIA GPU, giving you the decent FPS improvement. Now that all of the boring Windows and GPU optimizations are now applied, we can now finally boot into the game and go through all of the best in-game settings. I would highly recommend booting into an actual live instance so you can quickly and easily jump in and out and either adjust them higher or lower depending on your visual preference and FPS. Start by pressing the escape menu, then heading over to the settings tab, then head over to display. Before we jump into the fine-tuning settings such as sharpening, upscaling, render resolution scale, and other options, here are a few presets in which I would highly recommend that you select from, try out, see how they perform on your system, both visually and how much FPS you get before continuing on. So simply pause the video, select one of the presets you think best matches your system, go back into the game and see how the game looks visually. At this point, don't pay too much attention to the FPS because we're not done with the optimizations. We're mainly trying to find a fine balance of game settings which look good to you, which we can then further tune to get better FPS out of once you're happy. I've now copied all of the settings for the preset in which I decided to go with for my system, and I'm really happy with how they look visually, but we can still get more FPS. In this current scene, you can see I'm able to get about 78 frames per second, but I'm sure we can do better. So head back inside of the game settings, and we can now further adjust upscaling modes. First of all, navigate down and enable FSR2. If you've heard about the highly popular DLSS mod, which is available for this game, we will be installing that later on, but the exact same settings apply for DLSS as they do for FSR2, so we'll set this up now. Once you've enabled FSR2, most people believe that's all you need to do, but that is not the case with Starfield. You need to manually adjust the render resolution scale once you have enabled FSR2 for it to do anything. First render resolution scale I'd recommend setting would be 80%, pressing tab to go back inside of your game and seeing what the FPS improvement is like, move the mouse around, play around for a second and see if you're happy with this visually. I've gone from about 76 frames per second to about 93, then try out changing this down to about 67%, which is the equivalent of the quality preset available in other FSR titles. See what the FPS is like, see if you're happy with it visually. If it's starting to look a little bit blurry, you can counteract this by going over to the settings menu, navigating down to sharpening and turning this up, and I prefer to have this at about 100%. If the game is extremely blurry at this point, especially for those of you on 1080p or 1440p panels, I would highly recommend that you ensure that Enable VRS has been turned on, otherwise in some scenarios DLSS and FSR can look quite blurry and almost bugged. So how low you want to go with this will really depend on your personal preference, but I'm happy to go all the way down to 50%, where my game is able to now achieve 123 frames per second. If you would like to increase the FOV in Starfield for both first and first person gameplay, which I would highly recommend, all you need to do is navigate down to your file explorer at the bottom, head over to the left hand side to Documents, then navigate down and find My Games, then Starfield. What we need to do is right click in the blank space, select New Text Document. We're then going to call this Starfield Custom, double click on the text document you just created. In the description down below, you'll be able to find the FOV commands to copy and paste, right click on them, copy, then hit Ctrl and V or right click to paste with inside of it. You should then have bracket, camera, bracket, and then these two commands. You can change the value from 100 if you wish to do so to a different FOV. Let's say you wanted to go with 90, 110, 120, then go to the top left hand side to File, Save As. Navigate down to the file name, take .txt off the end and replace this with .ini, then go to Save As Type and change this to All Files. Head down to Save once again, exit out of the text document. You'll then see that you've created another custom.ini with inside of here. Right click on the text document you created and exit out. For those of you utilizing an NVIDIA RTX GPU, this mod completely replaces FSR2 with inside of the game with DLSS. To install this mod, it's incredibly simple and easy to do. First of all, take yourself over to nexusmods.com. You will need to sign up for an account to be able to download mods from this website, but it's free, quick, and easy to do. Head up to the search bar at the top, then search for Starfield space DLSS. You'll then be able to find the Starfield Upscaler by Pure Dark. Once you've been brought over to this mod, scroll down to the description until you can find the installation instructions. Head over to step 2 to the Upscaler base plugin, as you'll need to download this to ensure that the mod can work correctly. Once you're on the Upscaler base plugin, head over to the right hand side to the manual download button, then select slow download and save that to anywhere on your PC. Head back over to the Starfield Upscaler mod we were looking at. On the right hand side, go to manual download once again. There are currently 2 different versions of this mod in which you can download. I'm going to be going with the Starfield Upscaler Reshade version, then head over to manual download. Once again, hit slow download. Last but not least, head over to Google Tech PowerUp DLSS. Head up to the Tech PowerUp website for DLSS downloads. You then need to download the version of DLSS you're going to be modding into the game. The latest version will always be found at the top. Select download, select your closest mirror, and once again, save this to your PC. At this point, you should have the NVIDIA DLSS you're going to be modding in, the Starfield Upscaler, and the Upscaler base plugin. We then need to install these to our game. For those of you utilizing Steam, right click on Starfield, head down to Properties, then go to Installed Files. At the top, go to the Browse button, go to your File Explorer. This will then bring you into the game's root folder. For those of you utilizing the Game Pass version of the game, the easiest way to find out where this is installed is to simply boot the game up, head down to your taskbar, head over to Task Manager, go to the Processes section, find Starfield, go to the arrow next to Starfield, find starfield.exe, right click, then select Open File Location. Then go to the bottom and exit out of the game. Go inside of the content folder. Whether you're on the Game Pass version or the Steam version, we can now install our mods. Drag the game folder over to the left hand side. On the right hand side, we can start by installing the Starfield Upscaler. Double click on the zipped folder, highlight all of the files with inside of here, drag them over to your games folder, go back to your mods folder, go inside of the Upscaler base plugin, go inside of the folder for this, where you'll then be able to find the PDPerf plugin. In your game folder, go inside of the mods folder, Upscaler base plugin folder, then drag the PDPerf plugin into this folder. Last but not least, head over to the DLSS version you downloaded earlier on. Go inside of the folder for this, you'll then be met with the nvn-gx-dlss.dll. Drag this into the same Upscaler base plugin folder inside of your game. You can see the directory here at the top. Once your files look like this, we can then go ahead and exit out and boot into the game. This time when you boot the game, you'll more than likely notice a small reshade indicator in the top left hand side. This is a clear indication that you've installed the mod correctly. To make sure that DLSS is going to work, we first of all need to head over to the escape menu, go to settings, display, make sure that FSR2 has been set to our upscaling method inside of the game first, otherwise it won't work correctly. Head up to the top to your render resolution scale and set this to your desired number. For me that was 50%. Once your upscaling and render resolution scale have been set up, go back inside of your game. What we then need to do is find the end key on your keyboard. You may have to access a shortcut to press end. In the top left hand side, you'll then be able to find the Starfield Upscaler settings. If you can't move your mouse over to this section, simply press escape, then head up to the upscaler options, check to enable this. We're now utilizing DLSS. We can then also set the options for use auto exposure and sharpen. I like to have the sharpness all the way maxed out for DLSS. Press end to close that, go back inside of the game, and at this point you should notice a massive visual increase over utilizing FSR. In some cases, you may even see slightly better performance. That really does depend on your system, the GPU you are running, and the settings in which you're running in game. And just like we did with the FSR tuning, at this point, run around the game, have a look around, look at small details, and see if you're happy with the visuals. If you are, fantastic. Head back inside of the game settings, head to display. You could then potentially further lower your render resolution now that you're utilizing DLSS. Now that you've successfully set up any mods and all in-game settings, we can then lastly close out of this video with a few last optimizations you can apply to further reduce input latency for the game. The first of these settings we're going to be applying is AMD Radeon's anti-lag, and for those of you on NVIDIA GPUs, NVIDIA's ultra low latency mode for Starfield. For NVIDIA users, right click, open your NVIDIA control panel. Head over to Manage 3D Settings on the left hand side. Instead of going to the Global Settings tab at the the top, head over to Program Settings, head to the drop-down menu for this, where you should be able to find Starfield.exe with inside of here. If you're still struggling to find that, head over to the right-hand side to the Add section, where you should then be able to find Starfield with inside of here. Select Add Selected Program. We then need to navigate down to the low latency mode and set this to Ultra. For those of you on AMD Radeon-based GPUs, head over to your Game section, then either head over to Global Settings or the individual settings for Starfield if they're available, find the Radeon Anti-Lag option and switch this to the On position. If you're looking to get the absolute best experience possible from Starfield, I would highly recommend utilizing a FreeSync or G-Sync setup, ideal scenario for utilizing that technology, and if you would like to look further into that, you can check out the video linked in the description down below, which will go through a deeper dive showing you how to set it up quickly, easily, and the best settings possible. But for those of you that aren't too interested in FreeSync or G-Sync, one thing I would highly recommend that you do at this point, now that you've fully optimized your game and have an idea of what your new performance is like, is to close this out with capping FPS. In a single player experience like Starfield, consistency is better than getting every frame possible, and just cap your FPS slightly below what your system is able to achieve about 95% of the time. So let's say you're playing Starfield, you're getting 70 to 90 frames per second everywhere you go. At that point, honestly, I would just recommend capping at 60. You'll be saving excess power, keeping your system cooler, quieter, getting better performance on the low end, and it will just overall be a really smooth and consistent experience. So if you're looking to cap your in-game FPS, easiest way of doing this is to utilize either the NVIDIA control panel or AMD Radeon panel. For those of you on an NVIDIA GPU, head over to Manage 3D Settings, head to Program Settings, select Starfield from this menu, find the maximum frame rate option, turn this to on, then set the number to the desired FPS cap you're looking to set for your game. So if it was 60, go with 60. Select Apply on the bottom right, your FPS will then be capped next time you boot the game. For those of you on AMD Radeon GPUs, I would highly recommend utilizing the Radeon Chill application built into the driver software instead of utilizing an FPS cap via Reaver Tuner or traditional methods. As Starfield is incredibly CPU limited, Radeon Chill may provide you with better results as it's capping closer to the CPU level based on the way the Radeon Chill algorithm works. So my recommendation for those of you on a Radeon GPU that supports Radeon Chill, which is practically all of them, whilst inside of your game, press Alt and Z on your keyboard. Head over to the top left hand side to the 3 lines, then navigate down to the graphics section. Inside of here you'll be able to find Radeon Chill, simply enable Radeon Chill, set the minimum and maximum FPS values to the FPS value you would like to cap your game to. Do bear in mind, utilizing this precise method will set this FPS cap across all of your games. You could also experiment around with utilizing Radeon's enhanced sync. This could slightly increase input latency but could lead you to a smoother and better feeling gaming experience, especially at lower FPS values. Lastly, to close out of this video, we can now cover DLSS 3. This won't be for everyone as this is an extremely niche technology only available on a select few GPUs that many of you watching may not even own. But if DLSS 3 or frame generation is available on your GPU, highly recommend looking into modding this into your game. At the current point of recording this video, there are 2 different implementations of doing this. There is a paid for version by the modder Pure Dark, which is available via their Patreon and Discord community, or alternatively, there is a free version of a similar mod for DLSS frame generation, which you can find over on Nexus Mods, created by Luke FZ564. Again, all you need to do is just search for Starfield space DLSS, this mod will come up. Please do read these instructions carefully if this is something you're looking to install, and again, make sure that your GPU actually supports DLSS frame generation before doing this. On screen now, you can see on the left hand side all of my optimized settings for my 4K gaming rig, and on the right hand side we're utilizing those exact same settings but with DLSS frame generation via the Pure Dark mod, and you can see the night and day difference in overall frame rate. And there you guys have it. Let me know of your results in that comment section down below, alongside what sort of game settings you decided to settle with and your system specs. Not sure where to go next though? Check out one of the 2 videos on screen, and I'll see you guys over there.